chord you play has its roots in one of these 5 shapes. It belongs to this. So we've got the C shape, yes? And the thing that people get mixed up on is, yes, this is a C shape, but it's also a C chord. But this shape can be moved. The shape is one thing, but the notes underneath my fingers are a different thing completely. Yes, in this position, they are holding the notes of a C major chord. Yeah, but that will change as we go through this lesson. So we've got C, A, G, E, D. Okay, so those are the 5 caged shapes. That spells the acronym CAGED. Boom, C shape, A shape, G shape, E shape, D shape. That's what it's all about. Joe Pass called them the caged forms. We call them the caged shapes, call them the caged grips, call them what you want. It doesn't matter. You look at them visually and you need to be able to identify them. In fact, I would say watch performances of people and try and figure out what shapes they are playing. So there's the C shape. Diagonal. It's got a diagonal shape to it. The A shape. All the notes are on the same fret. Yeah? The G shape, it's a big cheese triangle shape. Yes? E shape kind of looks like a little curved hook. It's almost like a comma shape. And the D's a triangle. Nice and easy to see this. So we've got those 5 shapes. Now what we can do is we can move those up the neck, and I'll probably use my capo. So when I played all those shapes down here, C, A, G, E, D, I played them from the perspective of this head nut here being the starting point. Now what I can do is I can change the key. I can use the shapes. This is the secret to the capo. I was on about this the other week with this, guys. Look, so here are the shapes. C shape, A shape, G shape, E shape, D shape. The chords sound completely different because I'm fretting down different notes here. I'm fretting completely different notes. This is an E chord. That's an E, guys, yeah? This is a B, yeah? So you think about it, you've got to look at these. F sharp. You're looking at this, but the shape, and this is where people get mixed up, yeah? So there's the shape of the chord and there is the sound of the chord. Now the thing is, I'm there and I'm playing, yeah? And I need to go down here. It would be really hard work for me to have to go like this, stop, and then say, hang on everybody, I've got to move my capo. So this is where bar chords come from. And that's what we're going to look at. So what essentially the finger of a bar chord does is it replaces the head nut, which is the same as capo. In Italian, capo is head. That's what it means. Capo de capo, the boss of bosses. Okay, you've got those grips there. But another thing that you need to know is that these guys all connect up the neck. And they connect with intersects. Yeah, so look, we've got the C chord here. Now, the thing that we need to look for in the C shape is knowing what note is under the 3rd finger, because that's the root note of the chord. That's going to tell us what the name of the chord is, yes? So the root note gives the chord its name. So this is a C-shaped C, but it's got a C underneath it, so that's telling me it's a C. Now, if by chance I put this on here, and I play it here, my 3rd finger now... Oh, hang on, what note's that on? That's a D. So this is a C shape, but it's a D chord because there's my root note. I've changed. This is a movable idea. Now, the C shape for stumpy fingers can be tricky. Yeah? Now, this is me barring it without a capo. Okay? So we've got it like that. So that is a C-shaped D. Let me play that there. Compare it to a D, you can hear it's the same chord. But what I want you to be able to see here with this is what I call intersects. Just like on a Venn diagram. When you get a Venn diagram, you've got circle and circle, and there's a bit where they overlap. And this is the intersect here. So this note here becomes the root note for the next shape in the sequence. Remember what the sequence was? C. So the next shape we're going to have is going to be an A shape. I could play it like that. Yeah. There's the A shape. So we've got C, A. Okay. Now Now the next shape, this is where it gets tricky, guys. One of the problems that we have when we play the cage shapes, the next one going up, this is the root note for it. What we do is we use the A shape, see the A shape there? Those three notes there, they become part of the next shape, which is the G shape, because we've gone C, A, and then we've got the G shape here. This is what it is. I'm going to play it with the Dylan grip and use my first finger as a bar. Yeah, and that gives me another C chord. That's a C major, but using a G shape. And this one is an absolute monkey to do as well. But if I take that G shape, yeah, that looks more like a G shape now, and I take it down to that 3rd fret, hopefully you'll notice I'm only pressing the E string, A string, and the thin E string. The D, the G, and the B strings are all open. So it's the same, those open strings there form an A shape underneath it. So that is the intersect. So what I like to do myself, instead of playing the shape like this, yeah, I like to just switch it to a nice, easy first inversion. Now what a first inversion is instead of using the root note, we've got root, 3rd, 5th here, yeah? Root, 3rd, 5th. The first inversion means instead of starting on the root note, I still need to visualize where it lives, because I might be coming back there again for another shape. But what I do is I put my 3rd finger on the 3rd of the chord there, and then I hold the A shape there. Yeah, and I'm only playing the inside 4 strings there, guys. So look, and this gives me, I'm calling this my G shape. And a little bit of power like this gives you all the cool stuff. So if I go from a C chord, my 3rd finger's already on the same string as the G shape. So now look. So that. So what I've got is I've got another position I can lock into this chord here. So that's there, right? Now the G shape shares its root note with the E shape. Just to recap, C shape, A shape, G shape, the root should be there, and we share that root note with the next shape up in the sequence, which is caged. So E. This is where we get the bar chord that we know and love. We can strip this down, yeah? There's loads of different ways to strip this shape down, but there is the E shape, okay? Now this is the more traditional way of playing the next shape up. Here's how I think about this. I think it's the best way to get that. We look at the octave there, right? And that is on the D string. The D string is the root note string for the D shape. There's the D shape, and then for bar there, that's a D-shaped C major. But if you hear that, these are all C major, but in all the different positions. But here's the thing, guys. This is covering the first 3 frets. Okay? This is covering the next 3 frets. This covers the next 3 frets. This covers the next 3 frets. This covers the next, well, 4 frets if you want to. And then when you get to that D there, you can see the intersect. If I just scout there, put my C shape on, I could see that where my C shape is going to live, I will have to play it with different fingers to get it in there. Yeah, and then I'm back at the beginning because look, I've hit the 12th fret, guys, which means it's all starting again. The thing to get with the cage thing is, as long as the sequence is correct, they're all starting points, essentially. Right, so look, this is the C-shaped C chord, and I want you to see how these link up. So what we get is the A shape that links up there. Then we get the G shape, we can put that there, and then we get the E shape. And then what happens is we move from the D string, we can go from here, here, here. And then if I go here again, the C shape pops its head up again. Let me just put the highlighter on just to make sure that this is visible there. So there's the C shape. We've got the A shape here. And then look, this is where the G shape forms. You can see that the G shape forms there. But that is also where the E shape forms there. And then we can see the D shape forms there. But that D shape is also, hang on, let me put some notes in here as well. You can see that that is going to be The same deal there, so we can see we've got that shape there. But really, the way I see this, guys, is you've got to look at those 3 master triads. You can boil the cage system down to 3 master triads as well. So that's another framework that you should really be thinking about. Now, the way that I think about the shapes, and I want to show you some of the variations. So let me just bang these on for the C chord here. Now, this is the shape that you really need to see. And if you've ever come across this chord like this, the normal way to play a C would be like that. But really, we can add this note up here because this is the 5th. So it goes 5th, root, 3rd, 5th, root, 3rd, okay? So you can get away with playing that there, okay? And that's the way that I'd see that. But personally, I love playing this. And then you can think to yourself, okay, well, hang on. There's something going on here. We've got the 5th, the root here. What if I take that root and I put it up another octave? I get these chords. These are lovely little second inversions here. So what I can do is I can take that C, yeah, and visualising my root note under here on the A string, still visualising it there. But I can see all these shapes. I can see where the D shape is there as well, and that's a useful shape. This one here, it becomes really useful to move around. I know this looks like an E shape, guys, because that's the tuning of the guitar. Yeah, so there's the E shape. You move it up there, then it becomes like this. But what we want to do, we can move it like this, and this is lovely because there's a lovely way to play an E. If I can get my 3rd finger out of the way so you can see what's going on there. I'm holding this shape here. This is my root note. This is my 3rd. There's the 5th. Yeah, lovely sound. Right, we're going to come back to this shape again and again because this is my kind of easier way of moving up the neck. But that ties into this C shape. So we're seeing the overall C shape. If I take that note there and then put it on there, you can see where the shape is coming from there. So I'm joining that shape there, and then I'm using this one here to create my 3rd. That's the shape that we end up with. But equally, look at that. You can split that there. If I just clear highlights, there we go. If we look at this shape, and I'm going to bang the highlighter back on this, actually, because we're going to go all the way across there like that. That's the shape that we have. But you can break these down into triads, is what the software does. It's great. I just showed you the notes on the E, A, and D strings there. So you can see how that shape is there. And it kind of looks like an E shape, doesn't it? And it goes 5th, root, 3rd. But what we can also do is we can focus on the next 3 strings there. This is a string set. Let's move on. Let's look at the D, G, and B string set. So these are all little shapes that are going to be useful. You don't need to play the full thing. It depends on how much mass you want in the sound. Kind of like building up the texture of it. And then we can look at those there. So breaking that down, guys, I've got this. Dark and moody. Yeah, I've got the A, D, and G string there. I've got the D, G, and B string there, and then I've got the G, B, and E string there that I can break down into these string sets, and then get that on there, yeah. So that's a great way, I think, of looking at the C and breaking it up. And then when I want to move this up, remember, I'm thinking, that's my C shape, and I said that this was my root note here before. If I move this up here, all those rules are going to apply so I can play this. This is a D. This is an unusual way to play a D. There's that little way that I did it before where I put the root note up an octave. But if that's going on there and somebody else can play down here. You can hear that works there. So that, we've got that there. Hopefully you can see there, guys, what we did is we just took that C shape and we moved it. Now, I said about the A shape. A shape is pretty basic, yeah? The thing to know about the A shape is it's very straight. Yeah, it's very kind of stable sounding. And sometimes you don't want that. And this is why this G shape comes in useful. Yeah, because that third in the bass just gives a little bit of warmth to the sound of the chord. Because really what's happening, even though this is technically a major there, in these two notes here, we've got a minor third. So it just warms things up a little bit. Hopefully you can hear the difference between this. Yeah, that's a mug of hot chocolate. That's a drink of cold water. But this, you can hear, is definitely more stable because we've got the root in the bass. Okay? Now, we can divide this up in other ways as well. So we can just focus on string groups. So the next shape we get is this E shape. Now the thing is, it's always going to be better if you can play bar chords. I think it's easier than most people think because they just come at it the wrong way. But you don't have to. You can get away with it. We've talked about this on the channel before. Bar chord there, all the way across. It's a nightmare if you're a beginner or if you're intermediate and you're just starting. So what we want to be able to do, you can do that. You know, you'll start to see how these little shapes break things up. And then you start to see these handy little shapes like this. Now, this is the next one that becomes pesky. When we look at this note here, we know, like I said, that this was the octave over here. Because this is on the D string, what we're going to do is we're going to build the D shape out like that. Now, if I move that up, move it up to the 7, move it up to the 8, move it up to the 9, start to see how it disappears, move up to the 10. There, can you see there? That's the D shape. But if I go all the way back here, boom. So you can see there, this becomes my D shape. Now, this is a sucker to play. It can be a real pain to play. You can see, there's my D shape. Really, what I'm playing is this. 4 strings. Because remember, this D chord down here was strung from the D, the G, the B, and the E string. So we've got 4 strings. There. Okay. So in this instance, we could look up there. That's the easiest way to find it at first. You'll get used to just seeing where it is the more you do it. So there's the D shape. Now, I kind of advise people to just play that shape as it is like that. If you think on, this is an E string and this is an E string. So anything that happens on this E string can be mirrored on this E string. So if I take a D shape, I can play this third over here. I can jump over. And what that ends up looking like on my diagram is we end up with that. That's the shape we end up with. You can see it a little bit better now. So we could play it like that. But remember, we're coming from here as well. So the shape that I like to play, we can play this one here. And I'll just evolve it for you. So we've got this. And if we wanted to have it as this shape, we would have it as that. But what I like to do is to put the root here, the 5th here, and have the 3rd here. And we end up with this string skippy shape again. You remember we had with this with the C down here? Yeah. Up here we get this first inversion version. We could put the pinky on there, extend it if we want another root note, because that's what that is. That's a root note there. So this is still a C chord, which is a lovely sound is this one. So this is a really super useful shape to use. And if we looked at this down here, the D over F sharp that you might have come across already. Yeah, you might play it like that. You might play it like that. But if I just played it like that, missing out the A string, I'm playing exactly the same shape, but the head note is doing the work of holding that lower note for me. So that ends up being the shape. But I'd be able to then use this here. And all I'm thinking is look at that power chord there. Root, 5th. I'll put the 3rd finger on at the same fret to get the major 3rd. Okay? So that's an E. There's a root position E. There's a first inversion E. It's a really nice one because all I need to do is move this up here. Now I've got a shape that I can use that is a little bit more amenable, I feel, than trying to do that. Yeah, but you can do this. Going back to his original C major that we had up here. Yes, you can do that. You break it down like that. Break it down like that. But I think that this is probably the nicest one, the nicest way of looking at it. You can put the pinky on there. But essentially, what we end up with now is a C major chord all the way up the neck. We don't need to turn this into a bar chord fest either. C major chord all the way up the neck. So we've got a C-shaped C that we know that we've got these variations that we can add, yeah? Here. We've got an A-shaped C, yeah? Put the fifth in if you want, yeah? So don't put the fifth in. If you struggle, then play those there. Play like that. I know some people with fat fingers put 2 fingers on to hold down the A shape. It's fine. Dave Gilmour does it. Yeah, so it's all right. There's the G-shaped C. Here's the E-shaped C. And then this is the D-shaped C. Doesn't look anything like a D anymore. But we can switch it around so that we can see that D shape coming into play there. So that's the way I'm kind of thinking about this, guys. Look, so C, 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 C. No bar chording. I'm going to try not doing bar chords. And then when I get back up here, there's the C again. So those are the major shapes. We're going to look at the caged minors. So there's my A minor chord. This is the shape, right? Now what we need to be able to do is to see this one here as well. This is a C6 chord. This is a weird one, yeah? But this is, we're looking at this A minor chord and we're just moving it up so we have it in every position. Exactly the same way. So now instead of caged, we're going aged C. That's the A shape. So the next shape we need is a G shape. And the G shape looked like that. It was hard like that. Imagine what it's like trying to get that second finger back to flatten the third. It's awful. What I like to do is I do like this shape. But I do like this shape on its own. So remember I had this A minor like this pinky over here. But I do like this shape. But that's the root note if it's going to be a G minor shape. So this is an A minor shape. This is going to be the G minor shape. And I'm only using the top 4 strings here, guys. So what I end up with is this shape here. So that's what I'm thinking about as being the G minor shape. Now you can think to yourself, the third would be there. The flat third would repeat there. And in fact, this is a beauty. Just knowing this stuff. In certain keys, key of F major, chord 2 is going to be G minor. And ordinarily you might play it like this. You'll use an E minor shape, but you've got that bar chord. It's limiting. Here's how I play that myself. You can hold those notes there. Basically what I do is I hold that shape there. It looks like I'm playing a G, but that's the flat third there. And I'm muting the A. I've got an open D string there. I'm ringing out 4 notes and I'm not ringing out the thin E. But I could lay that finger flat there. There's a G minor, a non-bar chord version. That's a cool use of the shape that I had there, which was this business here. A minor in an A minor shape. That's still an A minor shape as far as I'm concerned, but you've just got an extra note in there, yeah, which is your third. We've got this one here. Right, this is the root note. This is the intersect between the G minor shape and the E minor shape because we're still following the sequence caged. So there's the 5th fret, which is an A. We're going to play an E minor shape here, bar chord. We don't have to play it as a bar chord. We can play it as a partial bar chord, there like that. If it's tricky for you, thumb over the... Some people do that, but bar chord there. So remember, A, G, E. The next shape we're going to go for is a D. There's the octave that we had before. Now what we're going to do is we're going to play a D minor shape. Now this is something, I think this comes up a bit more often than playing the D major shape. We don't have to play it as a bar because remember, anything that's on the thin E string can be mirrored on the thick E string as well. So if I take that over there, what I can do is I can play it like that. But I can play it like this. But the one that I really like is this one here. Now, you might think, hang on, that looks like a C7 shape. If you get a C7 shape and you just dropped it down one string, you've got a D minor shape instead, but you've got the third in the bass there, but lovely. You get this lovely little shape here. And in that position, I can leverage that open A string as well there. Yeah, so we've got that going on. It's beautiful, but you can do that there. We can take that root and that fifth, and remember what we had before was root and fifth there, power chord. We had the major third here. This is how easy it is to adapt this, because we know that this is the major third. We know that the minor third is going to be 1 fret lower. Now we get the minor. And this is the first inversion, A minor. Yes, but this is using a D shape. So that's what I'm thinking about with this here. So you can hear. Yes. There, right, so we've got that going on. Now we've got this as our D shape. This is, remember, this was the intersect into the C shape. Now that would be the C shape there, which is why I like this little shape here. And this is a really useful shape. So say you've got a D minor down here. Look guys, look. Instead of playing that D minor like that, if you want to, what you do is play it like that. Yeah? I've just moved that finger over there. Okay. Play it like that. Which is a nice voicing to have there. And then what we could do is play the C minor shape. Awkward, not shape you're really going to play much like that, I don't think. Yeah, as a chord. It's still pretty tricky, but as an arpeggio, it's one of the most common shapes that you're going to play. So you need to understand the shape and where it comes from. Now I'm back at the A here. I've gone up 12 frets and I'm back to my original shape. Can keep on going, adding those up. So really, now we've got a framework to be able to play majors and minors all the way up the neck. Now, what we can do with this is we can take something as ubiquitous as a 1-5-6-4, the Axis of Awesome chord change. Hey up. If you're sick of pausing my YouTube lessons and scribbling down chords and diagrams, well, I've got you. PDF Club gives you a library of over 350 exclusive downloadable and printable guitar handouts and PDFs with chord charts, diagrams and worksheets all ready to rock. Just grab what you need and get back to playing. It's the perfect partner for my YouTube video lessons. Check it out now at rickysguitar.com/get-PDF Club. Now back to the lesson. Watch the Axis of Awesome video, guys, about 4 chords. This is the 4 chord change. Yeah, so we're going from a C to a G to an A minor to an F. Okay? This is in so many songs. Yeah? There's the G, A minor, and then the F. Yeah? Right. So what we've done is we've essentially played all those chords that we needed in those first 3 frets. So that's the chord progression I played. That's a 1-5-6-4. C, G, A minor, F. Okay? Now the thing is, if I want to break out of this position, what I've got to do is I've got to find all those voicings that I've shown you so far. There's my C using an A shape. Yeah, here's a G using an E shape. This is a bit trickier as this one, because I'm going to go like, there's my A minor in that position there, and then I'm going to go my F just there. But I have got all 4 of those chords in that position available to me. So there's my C, yeah, there. Or I could play it like that. I could play it like that. Okay? So that's all in one position. Right, the next one, let's look. Remember the C, I played the C down here. There's the 1 chord, okay? Here's the 5, which is going to be a G. play it like that. I do prefer to play it like that. Like that. Here's the 6th chord, A minor. Okay, I've got to be careful with this one. Now I find this one a little bit easier to play like that, but I could just strip it down to that there. So you can see I'm not just stuck down here. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. Yeah. So you see there, look here. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. Got it there, I've got it here. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. You see, we've covered all of that. We've got a position for everything there. Let's do this here. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. Yeah, so I'm playing this one, I'm playing E shape. Yeah, my C shape again, but play it as that inversion, like that. There. Right, so then we're coming up here. This is a C. When I find myself in times of trouble. Look. But I don't need to do that because the open A string is available. But if I was doing this in another position, I wouldn't do that. Yes. Mother Mary comes to me. It's just there. Majors and minors. Cage chords everywhere, all up the neck. Got all the chord shapes. They're all there, guys. All you need to do is go up this. But what I would say is, like I've taken a chord progression there, take it as just 2 chords. Just move 2 chords. It's as simple as it is. Or just 1 chord. Practice moving 1 chord up and finding it in the different positions.